Hey everybody, welcome back to Vinyl Junkie Record Shop. My name is Mike, and today it is the Monday after the big Super Bowl from last night. If you're a football fan and you watched the game, you were treated to one of the more memorable and exciting games in quite some time, actually, with the Kansas City Chiefs prevailing over the Philadelphia Eagles. What was it, 38-35, I think it was, on a not super exciting game-winning field goal, but hey, that's how the game works sometimes. As you can see, I am wearing gear for neither team because I didn't have a dog in this fight. This is my team, the Indianapolis Colts, who sucked, but I'll have you know, one of their few regular season victories was against the now championship Kansas City Chiefs. They beat them on the road, actually, in Kansas City. And they should have beaten the Eagles. They had the Eagles beat going into the final couple of minutes, and then they cocked up that game. But anyway, maybe next year. So today's theme is going to be Super Bowl based, and what I've decided to do is I'm going to have an album war, an album battle. And I'm going to pick a couple of albums from bands that are representative of each of those two Super Bowl cities. So, let's get into it. Representing, and I've got a couple different mediums here today. Representing the city of Philadelphia, I've got the legendary Daryl Hall and John Oates. You get some glare on that there. Got a CD copy of this. This is their 1981 album, Private Eyes. Sad story. I used to own this on vinyl and moved many years ago when I moved and had to get rid of a lot of my stuff or reduce down. That was one of the albums that I parted with because I decided at the time if I had a bunch of albums on CD, which was the kind of the optimum format back in that particular day, I got rid of quite a few of my albums, and I wish I had kept this one. But anyway, this is a really good reissued copy of Private Eyes. And now, representing the city of Kansas City. Hi, Sammy, my co-star Sammy. Representing Kansas City, this was kind of a challenge because historically there haven't been a whole lot of big rock, specifically metal bands come out of Kansas City, even though Hall & Oates is not metal either. So I dug deep and I found one that I'm really kind of happy with because no one really talks about this band a lot. So emerging from the Midwestern rock scene of the early 80s. We have representing Kansas City, Missouri, Shooting Star with their album from 1981, Hang On For Your Life. This is a fantastic album, and it's going to be very well represented in this Super Bowl themed album duel. Nice thing about this album here, as I got to look at it, is it's still got the price tag on it from when I bought it. This was one of those nice finds that you get somewhere for 99 cents. You can still get dollar albums. So I was very happy to pick this one up because I had not had it in any format. So I've had it for a while now, didn't just recently get it. But anyway, when I did get it, it was $1. Fantastic. All right, so let's get started. I've made some little notes here. Basically what I'm going to do is I'm just going to kind of run down the track listing. I've assigned each song a score based upon, football rules. So, either there are different things that you could get here. You could get you can get a field goal touchdown. You could get a touchdown without an extra point, missed extra point. You could get a 2-point conversion. If I thought there was a turnover or in there, you could even get points docked. So I try to make this a little bit fun, a little bit interesting. And we'll see what's going on. So first up, let's talk a little bit about Daryl Hall and John Oates. Emerging from the Philadelphia soul scene, they were one of the premier 80s pop rock acts, and they had a knack for blending a lot of different kind of styles together into a really unique and very successful songwriting formula. And the hits from this band, they're just go on and on. Starting with songs like Rich Girl and Sarah from from back in the mid late '70s, and then their first their biggest hits that I remember as a young lad were "Kiss on My List" and "You Make My Dreams Come True," which is from the album that preceded Private Eyes, the album called Voices. And if you read the liner notes on the album, they were in the studio writing Private Eyes when "Kiss on My List" broke really huge. So there was a lot of pressure on them to come up with an album that was going to exceed the success of Voices, and they nailed it with Private Eyes. Private Eyes is a really good album with some really good tracks, and even though I'm mostly a hard rock and metal kind of guy, Hall & Oates was a pop rock act at the time, still, great music is great music, and it all comes down to songwriting and performing, and they really hit the ball out of the park, or kicked. They really got a touchdown with this particular album, Private Eyes. So let's just go through the tracks. The album opens with the title track, Private Eyes. Just a great, solid, classic song with real rich vocals and production. The album in general is very well produced and has a lot of depth to it as far as the different instruments that you can hear, and good use of horns and keyboards and pianos and guitars, solid rhythm section, and even some electronic elements, which really results in it being a foundation of that 80s pop sound. So Private Eyes, great song, classic. Obviously, that's coming out with a touchdown. Looking for a Good Sign. This was a track that Daryl Hall wrote that was pretty much a tribute to one of his more influential artists in his musical upbringing, the Temptations. So this has a very almost copycat kind of Motown sound to it, without sounding copycat. So just a really, really great, what do I refer to my notes here? Influenced soul, Daryl dedicated to Temptations, blah, blah, blah. So yeah, just a really good kind of throwback sound to that soul era that highlights that soul sound coming out of the Philadelphia scene during that time frame. So I gave that a touchdown. Let's see, next track, I Can't Go For That. This was the second big single from the album. It's a sleek and funky little groove, and it's a great representation of a classic 80s pop rock sound. So just, again, touchdown with that song. There's another 7 points. Followed up by Mano a Mano. My notes say this is kind of catchy and it's uplifting. It's a John Oates vocal. Not the best song on the album. It's certainly not one of the better songs in the Hall & Oates canon. But not a bad song either. Like I said, it was very uplifting and catchy. It's a little dorky, and the band will probably, I think they have admitted that in some of their interviews. So not the greatest song, certainly not the best representation of this record, but still worthy of a score. So I gave it 3 points for a field goal. That's followed up by Did It in a Minute, which was a more minor hit from this album. It didn't reach number one, but it was played quite frequently on radio. And it's a really good verse, bridge, chorus kind of driven structure. Uniquely though, with each one of those three sounding different. So you have a unique verse going into kind of a unique bridge going into a unique chorus. So all three things sound differently. So you've got three different varieties within the same song structure, which makes it for an interesting listen, and it's very, very catchy and very groovy too. And I like that song a lot, so I gave that a touchdown. 7 more points. Then we have Head Above Water. It turns out that according to the liner notes, the album was going to be titled Head Above Water, and then they changed that. And that water was going to be spelled in the song title as H2O, and they decided to scrap that idea, and then the follow-up album was titled H2O. Just kind of interesting, I guess. But anyway, this song really could have been a hit, and it has a really hooky chorus with a nice big underlying guitars and some good use of some power chords. Speaking of the guitars on this album, lead guitarist for the Hall & Oates band, I didn't know this until I did my research because I wasn't a big Hall & Oates fan growing up. But G.E. Smith is the lead guitarist on this album, and he would go on to be the band leader for the Saturday Night Live band, which is where I began to know who he was. Sammy's barking at my neighbor, putting out their recycling. Unnecessary. All right, come on. So anyway, back to the task at hand. I thought it was a really great song. It gets a touchdown, 7 more points. Then we have "Tell Me What You Want." This is a very energetic and edgy kind of track. It's maybe a little closest to hard rock on this album. If Hall & Oates was going to approach hard rock. And my notes say that this very Night Ranger-like, and this album was released in '81. Night Ranger's debut would come out the following year, '82. But some of the chorus structure, some of the chorus and bridge on this, the hooks and the vocal hooks, kind of sound to me like something that could have been on a Night Ranger album. So it's a really driving song, rock song. Great. It's a great deep album cut. AOR was a big thing in the early '80s, album-oriented rock. So you'd have a few big hits, and then you'd have deeper tracks that would sometimes be heard on radio. But those deeper tracks would really propel the album, and this is a great example of a song like that. So touchdown, 7 more points. Friday Let Me Down. This is John Oates lead vocal on this. It's a nice driving rock. It's got a good drum work to kind of keep it going. But at the end of the day, it's not a spectacular song. It's good enough to score points. Gave that one a field goal. There's 3 points there. Then we have Unguarded Minute. This is another catchy and hooky song. It's got classic, memorable Daryl Hall chorus. This could have been I think could have been a big hit because it's got that same formula, kind of similar to the title track, Private Eyes. So very enjoyable song to listen to. I gave it 7 for another touchdown. Then we have Your Imagination. Nice and groovy. It's got a nice little smooth touch of that soul sound. This is really a good song. I just compared to some of the other tunes on the album, I thought it was good enough to score points again, but it wasn't a great song for me. I give that a field goal. There's 3 points, and the album closes out with a song called "Some Men." It's got kind of it's unremarkable. Yeah. It's just kind of an unremarkable song, but at the very end of it, it's got kind of a what did I say here? Kind of the driving power chords that kind of take it home are worthy enough to score points on it again. So I gave it 3. So overall, an amazing album, absolutely a great album. One of the better examples of '80s. Pop rock sound, and probably one of the better albums from the '80s. I'll be honest, I haven't listened to this album for a long time. I really hadn't listened to it until the last couple of days when I was trying to, research and prepare for this video. And I really like it. I like it a lot. I think it stood the test of time. Daryl Hall is a great vocalist, and the songwriting duo of the two just has produced many hits over the years. And this is a overall great album to put on. It's enjoyable. From top to bottom, and it's it's a 9 out of 10 album at easily. So for a final score, tallied everything up, it gets 61 points. Not bad, 61 points. Okay, that was from the city of Philadelphia. Now what we got from Kansas City, we go back to the band Shooting Star. So what you had going on in the '80s, you had this kind of Midwestern rock and roll circuit where you had bands like you had Cheap Trick and Styx and who else? a couple more. REO Speedwagon, to name a few, had this kind of this blue collar kind of sounding of hard rock, and with a little Cheap Trick of all of them had the biggest, more the more power pop element. But you had that kind of sound brewing in the '80s. So you're in the early '80s, your hard rock songs, your hard rock bands were guitar driven. But to distinguish themselves from one another, they would, the bands would add some, more poppy kind of elements to have their songwriting kind of stand out. And this band is one of those bands that they really didn't achieve the type of success that the other bands I mentioned did. Cheap Trick and Styx and REO. But Shooting Star, amazing band. And this album would produce one of my all-time favorite hard rock songs ever, and we'll get to that here in a second. But the lineup, we've got Gary West. Gary West was vocals, guitar, lead vocals, keyboards, guitars. Van McLean, lead guitar, lead vocals. Charles Waltz, violin and vocals. Steve Thomas, drums. Ron Verlin, bass guitar. Bill Guffey, keyboards. So primary songwriting duo of Gary West and Van McLean, pretty much kind of the heart and soul of the band. And there's some lineup changes through the years. They have a few albums. I don't really go into a big detailed history of them, but if you're not familiar with Shooting Star and you like 80s hard rock and AOR kind of rock and roll, and you've not heard of them, by all means check them out. I do not think you're going to be disappointed. And this to me is by far their best album. And I love the album cover. It's got this guy in this motorbike coming through the window of this apartment. Hang on for your life. And then, in the back, the furniture and rooms, it's all torn up. So, all right. So let's kind of quickly go through the track listing on here. All right. So album opener, Flesh and Blood. It's a great example of that blue collar rock kind of lyrically. I kind of wanted to point out some of the lyrics on here. I got to take my glasses off because I can't see the crap. But, he's working hard from when he gets up in the morning till the night when he comes home and goes to bed, talking about that whole Midwestern blue-collar working class kind of lifestyle. Lord knows he kills himself to get ahead. Just you're going to find a lot of the lyrics on these songs kind of represent that hard-working, that work-hard mentality. Work hard and play hard mentality. Anyway, back to the song. It's got a really good nice use of the violin. Not emulating or knocking off what Kansas would do with the violin, but the violin is a really expressive instrument, and when used in the right way, it can really add a nice enhancement to the overall sound of a band, and that's what they did with this. So great. A second here. You want to go outside? Your brother's here. Technical. There, pardon for that. Okay, so back to my notes. Anyway, it's the album. The song doesn't come out of the gates all on fire, but it really reaches a driving end, and that violin kind of pushes it there. So it's a nice sustained song, and a good example of what we're going to get. I gave it a touchdown. Follow that up with the title track, Hang On For Your Life. Now, this song is one of my all-time favorite rock and roll songs ever. Absolute great song. Love this song. It's just got a fiery guitar riff, soaring chorus, great vocals. And how do you not love? But, back in the 80s, lots of songs about working hard, playing hard. So what we have, my body's like an engine, well-tuned and running hot. Strap your seatbelt on, girl. I'm going to show you what I got. I got 400 horsepower. The road ahead up is clear. Going to take this car of mine and shove it into gear. I wonder what we're talking about there. Anyway, you better hang on for your life tonight. What a great song. One of the all-time great hard rock songs. That's a touchdown with a 2-point conversion. 8 points for that. Follow that up with Are You On My Side? Great vocals, nice high, nice big power chord, kind of a powery shuffle kind of tune, a bluesy shuffle style rhythm. Gave that a 7, touchdown for that. followed up by Teaser. It's got a fast driving riff. It's getting nice use of the violin in the chorus. Touchdown there. There's 7 more points. Then a minor hit on this album was a single, Hollywood. It starts off as a power ballad, but then it just kind of pushes right into it's very Triumph-like in the vocals and structure. Kind of reminds me of some of those classic slower Triumph songs. But then it kicks into a driving stop-start verse and tells a really nice story about kind of what it's like to have dreams of going out to Hollywood and what it takes to get out there and how that it's not as bright as it might appear when you look back upon it. Great song, touchdown, 7 points there. Side 2 opens up a breakout, nice power chord driven boogie with solid guitar work and great vocals. The dual vocals of these two guys, it's kind of hard to differentiate or to tell which one is taking the lead on these songs. But to me, they got that swagger of a Robin Zander with the soulfulness and depth of like a Miles Goodwin and April Wine. So that's the best way for me to kind of describe that vocal sound. Anyway, let's see. After Breakout, we've got You're So Good. Big and melodic verses, lots of hooks in this song. Another touchdown. There's 7 more points. With She's Got Money. It's a good song. Big, bright chorus. It drives. It's driven with some solid drum work, but maybe not quite as powerful and as good as some of the others. I gave that one a field goal. There's 3 points there. Then we've got You've Got Love, which is it's got a unique beat. I've kind of described it as kind of like a calypso-like beat with maybe that late 70s R&B kind of driving sound. It heads into like an epic bridge with the use of the violins of these big power chords. That one came close to being a touchdown, but it just missed the end zone. So I ended up giving that 3 points field goal there. And then the album closes out with a soft ballad called Sweet Alicia. And it's got, it's a nice crafted ballad with a very sweet and soulful vocals, nice vocals. But for me, the placement doesn't work. If this had been put somewhere else in the album, it still probably would have received the same score. But the album overall kind of, I don't want to say fizzles out on this note, but I would have preferred to have had a bigger ending to such a fine album. So it ended up with a field goal too. 3 points. So overall, a fantastic record. A couple of song placement I think maybe might have affected would give this album an overall higher score. I would have come out of the gate with the title track, Hang On For Your Life, and then maybe put Flesh and Blood in there somewhere else. And I would have put the ending ballad maybe more toward the end of side 1 or somewhere in there to I don't know. I would like to see the album end on a bigger note. But anyway, one of the more underrated albums and bands of the '80s. This is classic. I think this is their best album. And if you had to get only one album by this band, I would recommend this one. So the band is Shooting Star. The album, Hang On For Your Life, and they are the representatives from Kansas City, Missouri. All right, so all said and done, we've tallied up the scores. The score for Hall & Oates, Private Eyes, it gets 61. 61, not bad. And Shooting Star, 59. So now, interesting to note, Hall & Oates had one extra track, 11 tracks. So Shooting Star had one more chance to get some extra points there and maybe push themselves into this. But hey, that's how the game goes. One team is always going to get one extra possession during the game, and this was really closely contested. But in today's Super Bowl themed Battle of the Albums, Battle of the Bands, both albums from 1981. In this one, Philadelphia's Daryl Hall and John Oates comes out to be the victor. with Private Eyes. So again, both great albums. If you're not familiar with either one of them, by all means, check them out. I don't think you'll be disappointed. Even if you're a hard rock guy, you'll like Shooting Star. I think even hard rock fans can find enough quality musicianship and songwriting skills with Hall & Oates to enjoy their music. So thanks for joining me today in the shop. I hope you enjoyed this Super Bowl themed video, and I will catch you on the flip side.